Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June Community Call. My name is Gabby, and I'll be your host for this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. It's 9 a.m. where we are. So if you're new to call, welcome. A little bit of an intro of what WinUI is. It's a native UI platform for Win 10 and Win 11. But this call is recorded, so feel free to pause this and take a look later. Today's call, our agenda is pretty light today. We have a lot of news and updates, but there will be lots of time for Q&A. So with that, I really want to start with those news and updates. So that'll be with Chigusa, Bob, and some other members of the team. Let's see. So I'm going to add in Chigusa. You may have seen her on previous calls answering some questions, but she's been here behind the scenes for a long, long time. Chigusa, how long have you been on WinUI? And
since the beginning. In the background, yeah.
Yeah, in the background. Awesome. But now you're the lead. So let's go with some of those updates.
Yeah. So I'm taking over the area from Ryan Demotparis. So thank you, Gabby, Savoy, and Ryan, who's been doing this community call for many years. And I will be taking over. And I want to make sure that engineering team is unchanged. So people who you see are going to be still the same.
Yeah, we are super excited for you to pass the torch to you, Chigusa. I think it'll be in awesome hands. I think Ryan will probably have a lot to add on there too.
Yeah, you can hear me, Gabby?
You're a little grainy, but we can hear you. It's like you're robot-y.
Oh no, am I still robot-y?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh dear. I wonder if it's my headphones. Hold on, let me turn them off and on.
Okay, thanks.
Is that any better?
No, but you're legible.
Okay, give me one more second here. Let me see if I can. Well, sorry, not to debug. Oh, I see why I'm grainy, because I've got the wrong microphone. Is that better?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. I don't know why it picked my. Anyway, yeah, I'll just add on to that a little bit, just for like a couple seconds because we've got the call to get through. So as Gabby and Chigusa, especially Chigusa mentioned, Chigusa's taking over really ownership of both the Windows App SDK and also WinUI. And this is a change that I think, first of all, is really well deserved by Chigusa. Chigusa has been on WinUI since the beginning, like she said. She has formed her own internal team inside Microsoft to go and drive these things forward. I think she is an excellent pick to go and do this. I also have been on WinUI since the beginning, and I wouldn't feel comfortable handing off WinApp SDK and WinUI to just anyone. They're like kind of like my babies, and I through thick and thin, I've been sort of steering this ship for a long time, and it's really been my pleasure to do that. But I feel great leaving it in Chigusa's hands to go and pick this up. I think she's going to do an excellent job with it. And so I just want to really, Chigusa, just express that confidence in you. To the community, I've been doing this community call with Gabby and Savoy. Well, maybe even before you joined, Gabby, but and maybe before Savoy, I can't remember, but certainly since the beginning, back when Jesse Bishop stood it up. And so it's been a highlight of every month to come here and just have a chance to talk to the people who use this product and have a chance to just share and be very candid with you all about sort of what's been happening all throughout it as we went through like the lead up to like basically our 1.0 moment and all that stuff. So I will certainly miss that opportunity. That'll be something that like Chigusa gets to determine sort of like how all of that moves forward from this point forward. But it certainly has been a highlight for me. It's been really nice working with all of you. I've gotten to know a lot of you, even personally, and I see you at Build Conference and things like that. So that's been really exciting too. But it's a period of my career that was really great. Gabby and Savoy and I are all moving on to do some other stuff. We're going to be involved, I'll say vaguely, with some of the AI Windows Copilot stuff that you've been hearing about and that we announced at Build. We're going to be working on that stuff. So we will be around. It's not like we're leaving the company or anything, but we're turning over the keys to WinUI and WinApp SDK to Jagoose, and she's going to do great. That's it.
Yeah, very exciting.
Thank
Great.
you
And
for
so
kind word, Brian.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I wouldn't just say it to anyone.
Yeah, and I think with that was a good transition to what Jagoose wanted to chat about, which was principles of WinUI. So say bye to Ryan.
Bye, Ryan. Yeah. So as we move forward, we want to make sure we are grounded on our principles. So we have these 3 principles that we live by. First one is provide transparency and clarity. We make specific and realistic promises that we can keep so that everybody knows what you can expect from us. Create value first. We respect the investment that the developers has already made before asking you to make additional investment. Meet developers where they are, respecting developers' choices by proper use of data and providing guidance rather than telling you what to do. So we recognize that we haven't been very clear enough about what we are and what we're not doing, which we will be changing that. Bob will be talking about some of those changes that we're making. Additionally, we are planning to focus our effort on Microsoft products so that you see that we are investing in WinUI 3 and those products are shining. So we will. As you know, we've been focusing on File Explorer. You'll see some of those investments happening from us. And we also respect the investments that the developers has already made on other UI frameworks. So in the past, we might have been saying like, oh, you must move to WinUI. That's not something that we'll be telling you. If you are working on a framework that works, you should stay on it, whether that is WPF, WinForms, UWP. That is, we're not going to force you to move off of it, which we didn't mean to. That might have been misunderstood, so that we want to make sure that it's clear. I wanted to mention. Next, please. And as a result, this community call, it's been happening every month. You'll see what we are focused on this summer, and there isn't really that much topic this summer, so we are going to be postponing it until around September so that you have more contents from us. But you can contact us through GitHub and Twitter as you have been already before. So we're not going away. It's just that we want to focus on some of the things that Bobby will be talking about next this summer.
Awesome. So we'll add Bob as well to chat a little bit about that. And I think, Bob, we've seen you at a few calls. Welcome.
I've been here before. I was not on WinUI from the very beginning, but I've been here for quite a while. So good. Let's go ahead and advance the slide. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is, before we get into the WinUI 3 stuff, we do have a servicing update coming up for WinUI 2. And this is not something that we do often, but it is something that occasionally comes up where we have critical issues that need to be serviced. And 2 of the issues that are in here, one is the horizontal scrolling with a touchpad that doesn't work. And the other is the deprecated icons that has been a PR that has taken way too long. I will take the mea culpa on that. But yes, we are not only fixing that, but bringing it down level to 2.8 as well. And that is going in. These are not the only 2 issues going in, but they're just 2 that I wanted to highlight, and we're expecting to get that out next week. So yes, we are going through and getting those in there. And Raphael and others have been asking about, are we going to service these things? And yes, we are doing that. I do want to call out, we don't have any current plans for releasing another minor version. So a 2.9 version is not currently in plans. And we will be doing these servicing updates only as they are required for the most critical bugs. But this was one of those cases that we needed to do it, and it will be coming next week. Next slide. So this one, I wanted to talk, there's been a lot of questions, and I see Lothar and Morton and Raphael and others asking, what are we focusing on? What are the priorities? And just really looking for the transparency on this. And looking at this, the theme song, this will be the first time ever we've had a Van Halen reference on the community call, but there's a song that they did called Finish What You Started. That's really what we're looking at here. And so for the 1.4 release, yes, we are going to make the Islands APIs available in stable versions. We're finally going through and getting that work done and having that in 1.4. Second is going through, and we had work that had been done in File Explorer with the photo gallery experience, and we're bringing that into the stable version as well. So the experience controls and the APIs will be available in the 1.4 release. And when talking about File Explorer and the pieces there, both the NuGet package and the File Explorer version are built out of the same branch. It is the same code. And we are working very hard to not have that fork and having one version. So whatever we do for File Explorer is coming out and will be available to all of you as well. That it is not, we don't have an internal versus external version with special, that we're making it so that everyone has the same tools available. The next one is one, I know we've talked about it before. Yes, we are making source available. That is a priority. That is something we are working on, and it is top of list. We are bringing the source out. Secondly, we know that the GitHub issues area has been a mess. What we had been trying to do was to maintain our GitHub issues list and have a public version that was available on GitHub, and we had our own private version in ADO, and that just simply doesn't work. What we are looking to do, and what the work that we're doing now, is one, cleaning up the GitHub issues and having it, and then every issue that is created on GitHub will go to ADO, and we will set up a mirroring so that we have a single issues list. And as we make changes, as we assign to releases, as we go through and work on those changes will be reflected and be visible to the community. The goal here is having 2 separate work items and making it so that we triage twice and everything has to be done twice. It just doesn't scale. And it frankly has not worked. Having a single source so that we triage once, we make comments once, and it is available not only internally but externally as well, is a much more scalable, reliable system. And so that is what we're working towards. Now I'll call out here, 1.4 right now is about finishing what we started. So the features that have been requested, the designer support, the data grid, ribbon toolbar, the new controls, authentication broker, we are not making investments on those in 1.4. We're going to get the stuff that currently is there out and look at that. After we get 1.4 out the door later this fall, then we'll be looking at what to do in version 1.5 and looking also, once we have that unified issues list, it will be a whole lot easier for us to understand the issues that we have and have that prioritized and come up with a plan on how much do we need to put on stabilization, what are the areas we really need to focus on, and what efforts are, what resources should we put into new features. And that's something we haven't had because we had 2 lists that were not in sync. And so that planning will be coming after 1.4 is complete. Next slide. The 1.4 timeline, Story Builder, I'll answer that one in real time. So last month we came out with Experimental 1. Preview 1 for 1.4 will be coming in early July. And so we're going through and getting that out. And the expectation is the Islands APIs and the API changes that we're making will be in that Preview 1. And so that will be a chance for everyone to take that for a spin, find any issues that are there, and understand exactly any changes to Islands between the experimental and the stable release, as well as how all of that works in 1.4. The release of 1.4 stable, we currently have slated for the end of September. So we're looking to have that in, and we will continue to go through and have our servicing releases on Patch Tuesday, the second Tuesday of each month for 1.3 and for now 1.2 as well, although the 1.2 bar is a higher bar. All right, so hopefully that answers a number of the questions that trying to address a lot of the elephants in the room about the team. One question that has come up is, are we excited? And yes, we are. This is a great change that we're talking about source availability as something that is actively being done, not the empty promises. And we don't want to say that unless we're actually going to do it. We are doing it. So with that, the team is energized and looking forward to continue all of you joining us on this journey and continuing to move forward. So with that, let's dive into Q&A.
Thanks, Bob. Let's see, I'll start adding folks now. Hello. Let's see. Got our usual suspects. Hi, Savoy.
Hey, Gabby. And hey, folks. I think as Gabby and Ryan are saying, this might be my last community call here. So looking forward to emceeing for you one last time. Though that being said, I haven't done too much since all the devs and PMs joining this call have been largely on top of answering all the questions y'all have been throwing in chat, especially today. Kevin Gallahan had one here to kick us off, asking what's the relationship between the WinUI team and the Windows Community Toolkit? Is there anyone here who'd love to speak to that?
Yeah, I just dropped a comment on that, Savoy, but I'll go ahead and answer here on the call as well. Windows Community Toolkit, Kevin, sits on top of Windows App SDK. There's a couple variations of it, one of which is hosted on top of Windows App SDK. And yes, it does have a number of controls that complement what you find in WinUI 3. However, it is C# only, so depending on how you're writing your app, that might be a concern.
Boy, I can also add. So there was also the question of the GitHub repo, and I think Kevin Gallahan's question was that one on what are we going to do with the GitHub repo and the WinUI source, and how is that going to work? About 6 months ago, we went through a change with WinUI Gallery, and internally we called it the flip-flop. And what that was is we took the WinUI 2 source that was there, moved that into a feature branch, and made it so that WinUI 3 became the main branch, and we were developing the source on top of that. Right now, the plan is to do something similar to that with the GitHub repo for Microsoft UI XAML, and make it so that the WinUI 3 source will be on main, and the current WinUI 2 source moves to a feature branch. So WinUI 2 source will still be available, and then we're just continuing to use the same repo.
Awesome. Question from Michael here, who's asking, will the composition API be part of open source? If direct composition, direct link are the right ways to do this, just point us to the right documentation. Bob, is that something you can speak to?
Off the top of my head, I don't believe it will be. And what I would say is, in looking at the making the source available, what we have for the internal WinUI repo is what we were looking at doing now. And this is a journey, and we will continue to look at the individual pieces. So there are some areas within WinApp SDK that will not necessarily be there, but that is an ongoing conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob.
Mike, I don't
And
know if you have anything to add on that.
I was just gonna make a comment. I made a comment about that in chat too. This is there's always been some confusion, maybe a little bit in naming about WinUI. Does WinUI mean XAML or the whole UI stack? And so it's probably, I've been expecting that to be part of the confusion here. But we're talking about the XAML part of the stack, which builds on top of the composition part, but that's not part of what we're making open source.
All right. Well, my YouTube comments are loading a little slow, so if anyone has questions top of mind for themselves, please jump in.
I can answer the question that Razzledev asked about out-of-bounds flyouts. I just got confirmation the other day that those will be in 1.4. That support out-of-window flyouts.
Scanning the list, looking for questions.
Here's an interesting one. Jeremy Sinclair is asking if helping build File Explorer in WinUI 3 has helped us see some issues devs generally encounter up front.
Absolutely. And I would say in looking at this, we've been seeing not only issues with the dev process and the inner loop. We've had some changes on the build process, as well as looking at things with application initiation, application shutdown. There have been some performance things that have come out of that. So all of those are improvements that go into the tool set. And as I mentioned before, we are keeping one set of code for all of it. So every time we make an improvement with the build process, with the build tools, with the performance, those do come out into the NuGet package and the public WinUp SDK release. And there have been quite a few improvements made on that.
Thanks, Bob. Bob, while we have you here, Barisma is asking if there is a timeline on 1.5.
Rough time frame. Generally, we're going through and doing twice a year. And so I would say first half of 2024 is a rough timeline, but we've not announced anything with that. But the twice a year is the rough estimate that we've been keeping to.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. I'm still catching up on questions too, so if anyone has anything to jump in with, feel welcome to.
Yeah, I can answer. That was on the GitHub about Fluent 2, since I've been plugged in with the Fluent conversation. So Fluent 2 is basically systematizing of the Fluent that the Office and the web side of the folks are doing. But Fluent 2 design is already actually shipped with the Windows 11. So Windows 11 was the beginning of the Fluent 2. They basically systematized it with the websites and all the system that they created. So to answer the question, which was Fluent 2 session up build did not mention how to use Fluent 2 in WinUI 2. Is this available in WinUI 2 or 3 release today? The answer is yes, because WinUI 2 and 3 already embodies the Fluent 2 design.
Awesome. Thanks, Chigusa. A few questions
Morton,
here around. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead,
let me
Scott.
grab one real quick, Savoy. Morton asks about The source availability, will we have source linked PDBs for debugging? Yes, indeed. That is our, open sourcing is a journey. We have no idea where this will end, how it will unfold, but the first step on this journey is to get you all to a point where you can step through the source. So yes, publishing private PDBs along with source linked snapshots, as well as dropping snaps onto the what was formerly the WinUI 2 GitHub repo, as Bob has alluded to. That is the plan of record for now. That is the first step along this open source journey. So just want to add some clarity to that.
And
Yeah, while we're go ahead, Bob.
to add on to that, that is the source availability is the term that we're using on that. That intentionally not saying open source as to full open source and all the PRs and all development being done in the open. We're not at that point, but source availability is a crucial first step in at least unblocking developers so that each of you, when you have a question on how is this doing that and why is it doing it, or I have a crash and I just need to understand what's happening, unblocking you so that you have the tools available to answer those questions and to get at those answers in real time on your own without assistance from us, so that we can help you out with other things rather than hoarding the symbols to ourselves.
And to add on to what Bob just added on to, the question about licensing, yes, the source here is under the same license, the MIT license. I believe, Bob, you can correct me if I misspeak here, as the WinUI 2 source has been. There's another question. Yoshi asks about separating the WinUI and Windows App SDK NuGet packages. That is something that we've had ongoing discussion about. It's something I'm passionate about. So I've been lobbying for that to have an official NuGet meta package to think of the Windows App SDK. This is incidentally how it was first released when we called it Project Reunion. We had a meta package that pulled in, that referenced a number of domain-specific packages, such as for WinUI. We didn't do that quite right, and so we rolled that back to correct some issues and created a single monolithic consolidated NuGet package. But there are some problems with that in terms of being able to a la carte pull pieces that you care about. So that's the nature of a true NuGet meta package. That's how .NET pre-releases a lot of their APIs like span and memory and so forth. So that's something that we're looking at doing. I think that would address a lot of the problems that we have with scaling for projects and being able to pick and choose pieces. What if I want to use application model or something, and I don't care about WinUI? What if I'm wanting to use parts of Windows App SDK in a WPF app? Right now, we have some ways of working around that with project properties and so on. But the ideal would be to move to a true meta package. Now, that said, we're not currently working on that, but we are aware of the limitations of what we have today.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. And I'm sure, as y'all are seeing, there are plenty of questions around the open sourcing here in chat. There's a few questions around composition. Remind me if we've talked about this already, but folks are wondering if that'll be included as part of our open sourcing plans.
Nope. I thought we had addressed that one.
Oh, you're right. We did.
Yep.
So Yoshi's asking if it won't be included in open sourcing. Are there ways in which we'll include it available for reference?
I don't know off the top of my head. So that one can be a homework item to get back to on that. We should, let me take the homework item on that one.
Awesome. Thanks,
So,
Bob.
I would like to, so Sebastien Lachance asked, I found a bug with number box inside a dialog for WinUI 2 and fixed the bug, but without a plan for a minor release, is it useless to report bugs on WinUI 2? And the answer is no. The way that we've been looking at these is we are taking those, and if it is a bug that is also in WinUI 3, then we're going into bringing that fix, and we are taking those fixes into WinUI 3. And so it is not a thing. We do want to encourage all the developers who are on WinUI 2 that moving to WinUI 3 is something you should look at. And if it meets your needs in its current form, absolutely do that. But the fixes that are being suggested and the PRs on WinUI 2, we do examine those against WinUI 3.
So I can answer some of the questions that was on the GitHub as well. First one is the information available on basically the HTTPS Microsoft GitHub IO Microsoft UI XAML up to date? So the answer is no. So that page has gone pretty stale, and we want to make sure that we are not duplicating work, like Bob was saying with the issues. We are trying to make sure we're centralizing all the information. So we actually taken down that page and linked to the page that has the most up-to-date information. So we'll be making sure that that page will be up to date. There was another question. There was another question about Maui. So there was some. I'm trying to find that question on the spreadsheet. Can you comment on the rumors coming out of Build about future of WinUI 3? That WinUI 3 future might be unsure since Maui seems to be adding WPF backend. So I have regular conversation with a Maui team. They were not aware of any, like they did not make any announcement about this. So, and the plan is that the WinUI 3 will be the backend for Maui, and that plan has not changed. So I don't know where this information came from, but WinUI 3 is the backend.
All right. Well, thanks, Jagusa. Willie is asking if there's any news about a kiosk mode. Is that something that anyone here has any info on?
There's a kiosk mode in Windows. I haven't heard anything about doing something special for that in WinUI.
Awesome.
It's not called kiosk. It's not called kiosk mode. It's called something else. I can't remember now. Somebody hopefully will answer. But it's a dedicated mode to a single app.
Mike, do you know if like WinUI is available on that build of Windows? Like, is that? I'm just trying to get at the heart of the question. Like, do we know?
I know. I'm trying to guess. I'm trying to guess how to do it. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it has been. We don't hear about that a whole lot.
Thank you, Carlo. Assigned access.
Assigned access.
That's a real name. Oh, I see. The docs say that only UWP apps can be used in kiosk mode.
Even I did not know that.
I could add a comment on that. So there is a team who owns the kiosk mode. They would like to make the Win32 available for the. There was 2 modes. I can't remember off my head. There was the single mode and multi-mode or something like that. And they would like to make that available for the one, but that is not currently funded. So that's the reason why it doesn't work.
So I do see a question from Matt Lacey on which other teams in Microsoft are you working with who've been through similar open sourcing journeys? So we've got a regular meeting and have been working with the Terminal team, the Power Toys team, the WinGet team. And there are a number of teams throughout our organization that have been working open source and doing that. And we're looking to really leverage their learnings and absolutely not create anything from scratch. So we do have some conversations with them. And then we also have conversations with the Community Toolkit team. We've taken over and looking at Template Studio. So continuing to look with a number of these projects, and we do speak regularly to ensure that we are in sync with each other and that we share our learnings and are as efficient as possible, and striving towards consistency across each of the Microsoft open source projects.
I think you left out WinUI 2, and we were also part of the team that worked on bringing WPF open source.
There's another follow-up, a couple follow-ups, I think, on the source availability. Kevin asks, is this anything beyond the WinUI 3 version of WinUI 2 source code? Well, yes, it is, because WinUI 2 was built on top of the system XAML runtime. It was a collection of controls, whereas WinUI 3 has lifted that runtime completely out of the operating system. So it includes that. And of course, WinUI 2 we're trying to move off of regular updates for that. So this is part of that journey is to make the control source more available for WinUI 3. There's a question as well. Morton asks about AOT, native AOT support for CS1RT. That is being actively worked on. I know that. Manoda-san is working on that. If you know who he is, he's leading up the C# WinRT team. And so some of that was predicated on getting complete support for native AOT over several releases of .NET Core 5, 6, 7. Now that that's all in place, I believe that work is proceeding apace. So hopefully we'll see that come out in the next few months, I would expect.
Horatio was asking if there's new controls coming to 1.4. There's a new items view control that is in the experimental release, and that's being targeted for 1.4. The items view is part of it was already out. It builds around an item repeater, which is already there, and the items view builds around that. And it's a new way of creating a list control with some more flexibility and control than list view and grid view have today.
So Nick's had a question here for a bit. Are there any plans to implement inking controls or camera controls in WinUI 3?
So these are currently not in a future for immediate future horizon. So we talked about next 3 months, right? Like it's not in the 1.4. We haven't done 1.5 planning, so it's not in the immediate future.
Thanks, Chigusa. Yoshi had a good question here. A few years ago, Ryan wrote an unseal all the things proposal in the WinUI repo, and Yoshi is wondering if that is still being considered.
I think it is. Mike may be able to clarify as well. I think there was a time where that was a technical restriction of the built-in .NET support for C# for WinRT. Well, now that we moved to C# WinRT, we don't have those restrictions, and so I think it's feasible to do that. I know there's some technical concerns about dispatching overridden functions in the general case. We might need to look at it control by control, but I don't think in principle we're opposed to unsealing as
No,
much as we
definitely,
can.
definitely all for it. It's a pain point. Honestly, the it's kind of an odd mix of what's sealed and unsealed today. Um, some of it actually goes back to technical limitation in Silverlight. Uh, the we might need to do it on a major release. Because I think it probably creates a breaking change. Like at the WinRT level, you go from being a activatable to being composable. It's different interfaces there, and I don't think all of the language projections will be able to handle the transition without it being a breaking change. So that's caused some slowdown. Raphael just commented on the Silverlight. I was going to make one other comment. We were talking about data grid before. Data grid is actually, the data grid in the community toolkit is actually a port from the Silverlight data grid. So 2 places. Yeah, and I'm not saying it'll likely appear in 2.0, but I think it would take a 2.0 unless we can work out the breaking changes.
So a couple of questions that I see on speaking about individual bugs. One is the question about dark mode on context menu, and I do believe that that is fixed in 1.4. I seem to remember the change coming in for that. And then there's also a question from Mysterious Dev about setting the minimum size of an application, and there's a number of questions about setting, customizing the non-client area and with title bar and minimum size, maximum size. One of the things that we are doing in 1.4 is work that Pratik has come onto this call talking about, where we are actually changing the title bar in WinUI to use the app window title bar underneath. And the strategy here is, instead of adding a bunch of new APIs for customizing window and for working with the title bars and the caption buttons and all of those, that instead we use what is in app window and just use standard Windows APIs and standard Windows controls for doing that. And so with 1.4, we're going further along that path and actually removing quite a bit of code in the title bar area to make it so that it's using standard Windows implementations of those, and with the goal of the standard Windows API should work instead of requiring a new WinUI specific API.
So Kevin Gallahan has 2 questions here that I think are good to ask back to back. The first is that have we made a decision on starting a new GitHub repo to house the open source WinUI 3 code and starting over with issues to help with issue mirroring, to help with this issue mirroring setup? Any thoughts on that, Bob or Mike?
We right now the plan is to use the existing repo, but we are going through and actively cleaning up and getting that in place. I also see the question also from Kevin Gallahan: are there any changes to how issues are prioritized going forward? And the hint of whoever yells the loudest, we've actually been trying very hard not to do that. That is not a scalable way, and it's really not a good system to get in. But it also, I acknowledge that there was a source of frustration, and how do we possibly communicate that? At the very least, making it so that we are clear on what items are scheduled for a particular release and which ones are not, being clear on that. Not having 3,000 issues to go and understand that we get that down to a manageable number of things that are actively being looked at. And if we're not going to look at it or not fix it, being clear and close that as this doesn't meet the bar or what have you. Getting that clarity is going to help enormously. It has been a problem in the past because, as I mentioned, having the 2 issues lists created exactly this kind of issue. So we do not want to have a whoever yells the loudest. but moving towards things that Terminal and others have used on allowing upvoting, looking at ways for the community to tell us what some of the issues and the things that we should be focusing on, but being clear on what decisions we've already made and communicating that so that you don't have to ask.
Thanks for answering that, Bob. You might see in chat here, Morton has put down the suggestion of using the number of thumbs up emojis that have been hit, like the .NET team does, apparently.
Yep, and we're looking at a number of options like that. We haven't decided on a final exactly what version we're going with, but step one, get the source out there. Step two, clean up the current issues, and then we can continue iterating on this and making the improvements to something that will work a whole lot better for all of us. And Story Builder, I'm laughing at the chat as well as at all of us. We are trying to smile. I've been chuckling at that the entire time, so let's just call that one out. And yes, we want to have real smiles, not teams painted on smiles.
There's a question about the Islands API, which at long last will be stable in 1.4. Nikolai asks if that will support WinForms and WPF. What are the restrictions? We would encourage you, Nikolai, since this is a fairly large API surface that we're rolling out, to experiment with 1.4 Preview 1 when that's made available, hopefully in July. And then open issues. We expect that there will be some issues there. So if you can get an early jump on that, Nikolai, if you're on the call, this question was asked earlier, then we would appreciate getting any feedback we can on that before we release 1.4 GA.
I wanted to call out too, so the Island support that we have in Systems YAML today, so you can host inside WPF and WinForms. There's a low-level API that's part of XAML, and then there's some wrappers that a WPF element and a WinForms element that wrap around that lower level API. What we have now is not the wrappers. We have the low level API, so you can use it in the preview, but it's working at a lower level. And there was a question about would Windows Community Toolkit controls work inside there, and should be fine.
I also see the suggestion on here for adding community moderators. And yes, that is something that we are considering and can look at that in the future. But that is not a replacement for us communicating what is there, but it is a wonderful addition.
So Tana Kimura asks about support for implementing iXAML metadata provider for controls. I haven't had a chance, Sotana, to take a look at your proof of concept, I suppose. This is issue 8475. However, I do know that there has been some work to extend that to make it easier to plug in for controls with the File Explorer adoption. So my hope is that some of that might accrue. If not, then we can certainly look at filling any remaining gaps. Kevin Gallahan also asked about whether the XAML compiler source would be open. That would be included in the source drops. That would be included in what we're intending to make available publicly, yes.
Yeah, I noticed Kevin also asked if if we will be planning to tackle any of the existing proposals around community feedback. Kevin, would you mind specifying in chat if there are any you are particularly interested in? I don't know if I can recall offhand the spectrum of proposals that existed there.
There's a YouTube delay, and then Kevin's got to type.
Yeah, true. I do see Morton just asked if we're planning any investments with WPF. Thoughts there, perhaps, Chigusa?
So there is no promises that we can make here, but WPF is an important part of the .NET UI framework mix. So that's being discussed. But that's beyond my pay grade.
I think we're down to kind of the last few. Yoshi's asking if we would consider a tabbed command bar for a future ribbon toolbar. Is that something anyone here has spent time thinking about? Not hearing anything on that. So, Yoshi, if that's something you'd like to see, feel welcome to go make that a proposal on our GitHub repo. I'm sure you'll see team feedback and thoughts there. Michael has asked if we have resources regarding how to composite HDR images with HDR colored XAML shapes and brushes. Is that something we know offhand where to point folks to?
Not off the top of my head.
I guess in a way I'm seeing the system working for the folks listening in here. We've been encouraging team members to tackle questions that they feel ready to answer as they come up. So at this point in the call, if there are questions that I'm asking to the room, it might be because we don't have the experts on hand currently. To that end, I'll take time to give the reminder now that if we didn't get your question answered here, or if questions come up later, always feel welcome to post them on our GitHub repo. We have an issue type for discussion. I believe one for question asking as well. And then, of course, every month when we make the post for community call questions, that's also a great place to drop questions. The team, I know, works very hard to try and see as many of those answered as possible. So anything we don't cover here, please reach out again on the repo.
And with that, we'll give a couple more seconds, see if there's any more questions popping in. Give a good second. But I'll say as some parting words, it's been really fun being the host of the community call. I know, hearing from all of you what you want to hear, what you want to see on the call, and that's been changing throughout the last year and a half that I've been hosting. And in general, it's always great every month to hear from everybody. So it'll be a different, it's exciting to see what the call will become and how Chigusa will.
And I will just say publicly here, thank you to Gabby and Savoy and Ryan for all of your help in bringing us on this journey. And I know you're not going far, but still, it's been great working side by side with you on this.
Thanks, Bob. I did want to also say the same thing, especially to Gabby and Savoy here, just to sort of help close us off. When Gabby took over the call from Anna, this was a while back now. Geez, I don't even remember. It was a fall sometime.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was late in the year. It was a lot to take that over. And Gabby, you've done just such a fantastic job evolving the call, not just hosting it, but evolving it too. You brought us to StreamYard and really just made the call into sort of what it is today. So thanks so much for that, and also to Savoy for leading us through questions. And what a lot of folks probably won't even realize is that there's a brief period of time when Savoy actually went to work on another product, and so he was like wholly focused on something else. But he just kept doing the call anyway because we were like, Savoy, we love when you come and just like sort of host this. Can you just keep working on this? And he was like, sure. And so he just like basically pro bono did that. And so like, and then he came back and was working on WinUI again after that time away. So both of you, thank you so much for contributing here. Appreciate that.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. It's been fun to be a part of. Like, I've been on the community call since we had studio space, and this was in person. I don't know how many people remember that, but that was like over 4 years ago, I think, at this point. And whether I've been on this team or not, it's always been one of my favorite things to be a part of because I think I probably speak for most PMs here when I say we actually do love being close to customers and connecting with all of you because that is the rewarding part of the job is getting to change real people's days. So I do promise everyone staying here and being a part of this all has that mentality. We're a team that loves working with the end customers at the end of the day. So it's been cool.
Yay. Okay, great. Thanks, Savoy. And thanks everybody for watching. I see some happy comments here in the chat. So great to see all of those, and best of luck to Chigusa and team. And with that, I will close us out, and you can see the team on the GitHub until September-ish. TBD on when the next call will be. So bye, everybody. Good to see you.